Hello learners and welcome to a natural sciences lesson. So today we're going to be dealing with the generation of electricity. But before we start, did you know that water can be used to generate electricity? So in this lesson you're going to be looking at ways in which we can use to generate electricity unlike the one that you currently are using. So throughout this lesson, we are going to be looking at ways, the advantages and the disadvantages of using those particular ways to generate electricity. So, by the end of this lesson, these are the things that I want you to be able to do by the end of this lesson. So, firstly, I want you to be able to explain that a power station is a system for generating electricity. And then also, by the end of this lesson, I'm expecting you to know that or to explain how coal generates electricity and also be able to list other alternative sources of energy that can be used to drive turbines and generators. And then lastly, I want you to be able to compare alternative resources in terms of sustainability and environmental impact. So these are the things that I'm expecting for you to be able to know by the end of this lesson. But in order for you to know those things, we are going to be looking at the main idea. As we have said, we are going to be dealing with the generation of electricity. So starting with that, we're going to be basically looking at how is this electricity generated, and then also lastly, we're going to be looking at the national electricity grid. In addition to that, there are certain things that we know about electricity, about what electricity entails and how it moves and how it actually powers up everything that we have around us. So the things that we should already know by now is, number one, that electricity can be dangerous and we need safety devices such as fuses and circuit breakers, and then also the earth leakage to reduce the risks. Number two, we also know that many electrical appliances with metal casing have an earth wire attached to them that is used to prevent electric shocks if there is a short circuit. Number three, we also know that 3-pin plugs have 3 wires. They have, number one, a brown live wire, number two, a blue neutral wire, and lastly, a green and yellow striped wire. And then the last thing that you already know about electricity is the earth wire that we have said that you find in this 3-pin plug. The earth wire has a very low resistance and it is connected through the plug socket to the earth leakage system of the house into the ground. So this earth wire is connected into the plug socket or to the earth leakage system of the house and into the ground. So with these things that we know, are we then going to be able to answer the questions that we are asked based on the information that you already know? The first question which is asked is, we need to explain how a fuse functions to protect an electric circuit. So we need to know that the fuse is basically now a wire that is a wire that is used in an electrical circuit that is used also to control the flow of current. Now that is to say, if now in that circuit we have a higher current, the fuse it is going to melt because the fuse has a low melting point. So if the current in that particular circuit is high, then the fuse is going to melt. And if the fuse melts, then the wire making up that fuse is going to break. And remember, once the fuse or once that wire breaks, the flow of current is going to stop because that would mean there is an open circuit. Once the wire breaks, that means there's an open circuit. Electricity, or in this case, the electrical current will not be able to move from one point to the next point. So explain how a fuse functions to protect an electric circuit. A fuse is made up of a thin wire that has a low melting point. So if a current increases, then the thin wire the thin wire will melt because of the low melting point and break, and therefore opening the circuit. Therefore opening the circuit. And we do know that once the circuit is opened, there won't be any current flow because there is going to be a disconnect between two wires. Now question 2 is asking, why are circuit breakers more convenient to use than fuses? So the reason why we prefer to use circuit breakers is because we know that a fuse, once this thin wire, it melts and then it breaks, we cannot be able to use the very same fuse again. We'd need to replace the fuse, and remember, over time, if we keep on replacing the fuse, it becomes costly and very expensive. So therefore, with regards to a circuit breaker, if the circuit trips, you can just go to the circuit, and then you can just reset it and restart all over the process all over again. So therefore, the reason why circuit breakers are more convenient to use is that circuit breakers can be reset whereas fuses need to be replaced, and over time replacing a fuse can be expensive because you don't really know how long or for how long you'd need to be replacing this fuse for and how long it is going to last. It might happen that every day that fuse will blow, and therefore you need to replace the fuse every day. And because of that, it gets costly and costly over time. Now, question 3 is asking, when a fuse blows, why do you think it is important to fix the problem before replacing the fuse? Now, remember that the fuse is used to protect the electric circuit. So once the fuse is no longer there to protect the electric circuit, then that increase in the current strength is going to damage the entire circuit, and also that means yes, the current increase, the current strength increase in that particular circuit is going to be damaging the circuit. So the strength of the current can damage the circuit and it can also be dangerous, and it can also pose danger. So without the fuse or without the circuit breakers, in this case, the current increase, as the current strength increases in that circuit, can cause danger. It can also damage the entire circuit, which means we now need to replace the entire circuit as compared to just replacing the fuse, or as compared to just inserting or installing a circuit breaker so that we can reset it once it keeps on tripping over and over again. Now, throughout this lesson, there are certain words that you're going to be using to better explain the main concept when we are talking about the generation of electricity. So we're going to be using words such as alternative energy, we're going to be using words such as Eskom, national electricity grid, and then lastly power station. So those words are going to be used to better explain the main idea being the generation of electricity. So before we start with the first concept, we're just going to quickly go for a short break, and I will see you just after this.